Hello, thank you for coming. We appreciate each and every one of you. You are the salt of the earth. You are the ones that make the world go round. You are also the smartest audience of the world. Thank you for coming. We will be taking some days off next week, maybe even tomorrow. I bummed out my foot, fell off a ladder, got a toe cut off, and now we've got to readjust the bones. So we'll see though. When Coach Jimmy came here with the Matrix, he's buff, man. I started doing the isometric exercises, and boy, all of a sudden I'm healing very quickly on everything. Anyway, Trump ends the war in the Middle East and threatens nuclear war with Russia. I can't believe he did that. He says, Russia, you got to stop this war in the Ukraine. It's insane. It's going to lead to World War III. Russia was obeying the 1991 treaty, and as an ambassador, I have access to that. The 1991 treaty, which says any state in the Ukraine that votes to rejoin Russia has the right to rejoin Russia. The United States ignores treaties and started a massive conflict, and several times has launched a full-scale, large 15 to 35 kiloton firecracker attack on the Ukraine to destroy Donetsk and Luhansk because they want the coltan. And Trump just says enough. Anyway, part of what's happening is when we talked about the silver piece causing, $1 of silver causes massive expansion of the monetary market, all of a sudden the market's down. Trump puts 100% tariff on China. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So gold I think is almost at 4,200. Silver's topping 51, 52. All the heavy metals are increasing because China says we're not going to trade with the United States. So the Pentagon announced we're going to buy $1 billion worth of rare earth metals, holmium, niobium, things that we can't even pronounce or don't even know what they're used for. Of course, we don't need those metals, but we have them. We want them anyway. So they announced massive buying of heavy metals. Well, of course, not heavy metals, of rare earth metals. So rare earth metal stocks are going through the roof. Well, so is silver, because Trump also announced we're going to triple the production of cruise missiles from 530 to 1,500, maybe 2,000 a year. These cruise missiles are awesome. They can go along. They kind of look like a pen, kind of like this. They can go along. Admiral Rickover described it, way back in the 80s. I remember listening to him. I was in the military. The missile can go about 5 feet above the ocean, see a ship, go straight up, and come straight down. Or it can just go straight along and hit it with a nuclear tip and 1,000 pounds of explosives, pretty much sinking the ship. The new range is 2,500 miles. So we may be sending missiles into Russia with a range of 2,500 miles. So they either carry... They're impressive. Sorry, it's still the residual of what they sprayed on it. It's going to take months to get rid of it. The warhead's about 1, 2, 3, about this big. Now this warhead is either 1,000 pounds of high explosives. Come on, C4 was 45 years ago. Gasoline and Tide soap. That's napalm, but you make it thicker and it turns into C4. So this warhead is about this big. We'll talk about that in a minute. But that means that there's no silver to be found, because all the silver is being bought up by the Department of Defense, because they need more silver to make more bombs. 15,000 bombs a year. We've got to drop them on somebody. Yugoslavia, Libya, Syria. So the Pentagon announced huge purchases. So India and probably a lot of other countries are freezing the sale of everything having to do with metals. Silver, gold, all exchangeable tradable funds, ETFs. No more trading in gold and silver. There is no silver in India. There's a massive shortage around the world of silver. Will the price follow to maybe $600-700, which is where silver ought to go? Maybe. I don't know. I mean, my focus is saving the president and stopping a nuclear exchange. That's my focus. I'm sure I could refocus on making money. But does it matter if we don't have a planet left? What good is $1 billion if there's no planet left? So I go to Noble Gold for all my gold and silver, because when I want to buy gold and silver, I want to make sure that it's real gold and real silver. Because if I'm going to spend $52 an ounce on silver, I want to make sure it's real silver. Now, I started buying silver at $10 an ounce. Not a lot. You know, good, maybe an antique store here and an antique store there, and you buy it for about, and then all of a sudden it's $20 an ounce. Now it's 30, and then it went up to 50, and then down again, and now there's a shortage. There is no silver in India. There is no silver in a lot of silver dealers. They're out. So, like I said, I called Noble Gold, 877-646-5347. But you need to know the whole news about what's going on, not just about Noble Gold. So that's part of the story. And the weapons plant blew up in Tennessee. They were so proud. This is an all-women-owned corporation. Boom, it's gone. I don't think any insurance will cover that. Anyway, that's why they pay so much for weapons, because when you make them, they blow up. A lot of times. A Democrat, an aide, they won't mention the name's aide, he says, we're not going to stop the shutdown until planes fall out of the sky. In other words, they're cutting off the FAA pay and they want the planes to fall out of the sky. Once several 100,000 Americans are dead, then maybe they'll stop the government shutdown. These people are evil to the core. Trump's going to pay the troops, but as for the FAA, I think he'll find the way to pay the FAA employees. I mean, if he's got $10 billion a month to throw at the Ukraine, he's definitely got money to throw at the FAA. Don't tell me you have no money. You're still funding the Ukrainian welfare. We're still funding the Ukrainian welfare. Stop funding Ukrainian welfare and pay the FAA workers, President Trump. And Trump is done with games. China put 100%, again, China decided not to sell rare earth metals like holmium and molybdenum to the United States. They control 35% of all rare earth metal trade. So the Dutch bought out the major company that sells the rare earth minerals. So China's like, oh my God, now what do we do? We don't have the money to buy the company back. China's broke. We stopped giving them $600 billion a year through BlackRock to build their military. Now they have a hard time paying their soldiers because we're no longer giving them $600 billion a year to build their Navy fleet and their Air Force and their Army. So now they can't pay the soldiers. They can't even buy back the rare earth metal firms. And Trump said, all right, you're going to continue to use slavery? You're gonna go out and take the Uyghur Muslims just because they're Muslims and kill them? Use them for slave labor? 100% tariff. No more games, China. And as for Kash Patel didn't swear this. He swore loyalty to the British Authorized Register. He is not a loyal American. He's a loyal British employee. He should have said, I, Kash Patel, solemnly swear and affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, and I will take an obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will and faithfully discharge the duties of the office which I am about to enter, so help me God. Kash Patel never took that oath. Bandingo never took that oath, because if they had, when I said Air Force One has a problem, and then it went down 2 Thursdays ago, there should have been FBI all over me to protect and defend the President of the United States, because that's the oath they swore. Kash Patel, your agents swore that oath, and you prevented them from doing that. What is wrong with you mentally? You should have been all over me when I warned you about Air Force One going down. So there's only 2 conclusions one could make. That wasn't the real Trump, or you want him dead. Because you refused to obey the oath of the FBI. You refused to obey the oath of the FBI, Kash Patel. You're nothing but a traitor. You should have been all over me when I said, watch out for protect Air Force One on Wednesday, and it went down on Thursday. You should have had 100 agents at my house asking me how I knew. But not one even called. You never desensitized. You're still censoring me. Kash Patel, you are a traitor and you want Trump dead. You and a whole bunch in the FBI. Otherwise, you would have obeyed your oath that your agents swear. You traitor. You're still censoring me. All I can say is, you are the biggest censor in the world. God will now spit on you, Bandingo and Kash Patel. King of Kings and Lord of Lords will now spit on you for being a traitor. Not to the FBI, not to the president, but to yourself for violating an oath you swore in blood as a Mason. And Trump ended the war in the Middle East. He went over there, and the hostages have been released. Egypt has tanks lined up on the border of Palestine, and they plan to kill any Palestinians going into Egypt. Even though all of the Palestinians are Egyptian, they have their tanks lined up, machine guns ready, and they planned to kill 500,000 Palestinians as they came across the southern border. Egypt took their tanks across the border and lined them up, right on the southern Gaza border. All 157,000 acres, smaller than a Texas cattle ranch. We'll talk about that tomorrow. So Trump, realizing that Syria wouldn't take them, Jordan wouldn't take them, Egypt wouldn't take them. Egypt said, we'll kill them if they cross the border. They're Egyptians. Yes, the 1950 treaty says Egypt can occupy Gaza. However, they were going to kill them with machine guns. And everybody's going, Israel, 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 as Egypt lines up the tanks to kill the Palestinians. So Trump went over there and said, the war is over. There's 200 troops. They're going to sit in Israel and monitor this. The war is over. We're putting an embargo on weapons to Palestine. So there's no more weapons being shipped into Palestine, and 500,000 refugees are going back home, but they have no water. So Israel's providing them with water. Why do they have no water? Because Hamas, purposely and with intent, lined up or took all the water pipes, squeezed them off, loaded them up with explosives, lit them off, and fired them in Israel. They ripped up the water line, so Israel has to bring in trucks of water. Unbelievable evil in Hamas. And Trump said Hamas is no longer. If there is a Hamas, we'll kill you. So the war is ended. He goes to the Knesset, gives a speech. The public outside cheers Trump because Trump says the end of the war. And the Knesset cheers Trump. He says all the hostages are coming home. He said all it took was us, the U.S., to get our military together and say, Hamas, if you squeak, we burn you. We're making almost 2,000 cruise missiles a year now. Now, Admiral Rickover said this cruise missile could go through a party and knock the champagne glass out of your hands. That was in 1985, I believe. Cruise missile could literally fly by you, knock the champagne glass out of your hand, and leave your hand intact. That's how accurate it is. And it has 3 methods of guidance systems. It has GPS, it has its own internal guidance system, and it has land navigation. So first they fly a cruise missile over an area, it knocks out. I'm ahead of myself, but he finally lowered the boom on Russia with the attack on Ukraine. First they fire a cruise missile, knocks out all the electronics. Second, they fire a cruise missile, and it can hit within that distance. So that was 1985 that Admiral Rickover announced that, maybe 84. He said the cruise missile is very accurate. Trump said, U.S. guidance system is being set up in Norway, in a military base. And we will fly cruise missiles out of Norway and attack every target in Russia. We have about 1,000 cruise missiles. We have several hundred cruise missiles with electronic warfare capability. Russia can't stop these. They can come down over the mountains and go down and hit every target in Russia. One of them can take out Murmansk. Plus, from a satellite, we can drop a compressed titanium rod, and when it hits the ground, the entire city is obliterated non-nuclear. We've been using that technology for 15 years now. We also have a box, fairly large box, with compressor. So here's the compressed titanium rod, and we have a compressor that compresses it and compresses it and compresses it until, boom, it explodes. So we could drive a SUV, a small sedan, open the trunk, flip the switch, close the trunk, and walk away. We'll get about 3 or 4 miles. Maybe we'll take a taxi. Maybe two cars will rendezvous. They'll meet. They'll talk. They'll have lunch. They'll go out to the car. They'll open the trunk. They'll flip the switch. Take a briefcase. Get in the other car. Drive away. Get about 10 miles away, 15 miles away, and kaboom, the city disappears. These are the capabilities Trump has. We've had these capabilities since 90, 95. We've had the cruise missile since, well, right after Werner von Braun, who created the cruise missile for Germany, the V2 and the V3. We then created, I know they say the V3 was an artillery piece. That's a lie. They had the V3 cruise missile. Came over to the U.S. and started building them, and then we improved it about 1980 and created the current cruise missile. Now, the new cruise missile they're building right now has a range of 2,500 miles. So, if we fire them from Norway, and if we fire them from, say, I don't know, Japan, Okinawa, we can hit every target within Russia. They won't even know they've been hit. The missiles go about this far off the ground, and kaboomo. That's technology we've had for 45 years. Imagine the new technology we have. Now, what has to happen is the Ukraine, with that weird gay porn dancer who has a wife, happens to be the ugliest girl I've ever seen in my life, who comes to New York just to buy $1.1 million worth of jewelry with your money. Your money funded her. So Trump is going to step up this Ukrainian war as he ends the Middle Eastern war. And he's going to step it up and warn Russia. And Russia says, you fire a cruise missile, it's nuclear war. So we'll see. Satan says we have until the end of the year to start a nuclear war and kill everybody. We'll see what Trump does. But with Kash Patel hot on his tail trying to kill him, you should have taken these 3 warnings seriously, Kash Patel. Because when I warned that Air Force One would go down and it went down, you should have immediately acted on these 3 warnings. But you didn't. You didn't act on them. Which means you want Trump dead and Trump's trying to stop the Ukrainian war. Put 2 and 2 together, you understand Kash Patel works for the British Authorized Registry, which is a knight under the King of England who answers to directly, and I don't know who the King of England is because King Charles is dead, Bill Gates is dead, Hillary's dead. We're all dealing with doubles now. So we're being run by doubles. So he's loyal to the British Authorized Registry as a lawyer, the bar. So they give the orders to kill Trump. We'll see what happens. Anyway, we're going to find out what happens because this little warhead about this big can either be 1,000 pounds of it. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. So it's about this big. Pretty sizable warhead. Either carries 1,000 pounds of explosives or it carries up to a 500 kiloton warhead. Now we had to pull the 180 kiloton warheads out of action. And we're watching them degrade the electronics. See how fast it takes to degrade the electronics in a test. But these warheads can be up to 500 kilotons. Now Hiroshima was 15 kilotons. I think Nagasaki was plutonium 25 kilotons. So a 500 kiloton firecracker's pretty powerful. So Russia deems it, if he fires those, so Trump is moving cruise missiles into Norway as we speak. Because if they say it's about to happen, you know it's happened. And we have the B-21 bomber. I watched the B-2 bomber right over here go, and it stopped overhead. It tilted, it went, and stopped right over my head. And then it went. So we've had anti-gravity propulsion systems on the B-2 bomber. So it has an unlimited range. And we're at 85 megahertz, I think, kilohertz. Anyway, the astral plane is 4 times higher. So you go 85, 100 and whatever, 4 times 8, 16, 24, 26, 260 megahertz or megahertz, and you've got the frequency of the astral plane, and then you have constant static electricity. So they have static electricity antennas on that. They have unlimited power. They don't go 50,000 feet. The SR-71 circled the moon, so you know they've got anti-gravity propulsion systems on them. So we'll see what happens. We've got some tremendous capabilities, and I think Russia will want to end the war. Frankly, I thought Russia was giving the Ukraine, and they were just playing games to break Europe, and they have broken Europe. France has a sixth government in the last year, I guess. Europe's falling apart. God bless. Thank you very much. We appreciate each and every one of you, and we'll see you tomorrow morning.